Do you think Muzan is the most hated character in Demon Slayer? Then you're wrong. And you know the man who actually helped Demon Slayers kill Muzan wasn't loved at all. Here are the most hated and loved demons in Demon Slayer. Doma was a monster, but you could argue it wasn't really his fault. And in a twisted way, he actually kept his promise to save people. He was a straight up psychopath and easily one of the most hated demons, especially because he killed Shinobu. And unlike a lot of the other demons on this list, even his backstory doesn't help his image. Doma was born with rainbow-colored eyes and pale grey hair. His parents believed that was a sign of innocence, proof that he could hear the voices of the gods. They were so nuts about it, they even created their own religion called the Paradise Faith. It was all holy and noble on the surface, but behind the scenes his father was a womanizer who slept with female followers. When his mother found out, she stabbed him to death before taking her own life with poison. One would expect a kid to be traumatized by that. Nope, Doma didn't feel sad or angry. He just wished she hadn't made such a mess of the room. He hated the smell of blood and wanted to air the place out right away. Even as a kid, adults would come crying to him, telling him how they were suffering and then asking him to guide them to paradise. And every time they did, Doma would end up crying too, not out of compassion, but because he thought they were foolish. He didn't believe in paradise, gods, or Buddhas, and couldn't understand why people clung to such ideas. He had a twisted philosophy. He believed that he was born to make pitiful people happy and help them, and he held that belief even as a demon. But his method of helping them was by eating them. Doma convinced himself that by eating people he was saving them. In his mind, they lived forever with him, free from pain and suffering. He also preferred eating women because he thought they were more nutritious since they could carry life inside them. He was a liar who couldn't feel emotions, a psychopath even before turning into a demon. And in the end, when Doma died, he had one rare, almost human moment. He realized he had fallen in love with Shinobu. He even asked her to join him in hell. But if you think about it, Doma's mental state was more his parents' fault than his. He never got a chance to be a child, to learn and to grow. He was treated like a god as soon as he was born. He was superior to everyone, and he acted according to that role, just in the way no one expected. Enmu might be the most evil demon of all, not because of what he did or how he enjoyed it. It's much worse than that. Enmu's power itself was one of the most sinister ones in all of anime history. He literally plays with the deepest, darkest secrets of people, their feelings in the form of dream, and kills them while they are in that. His victims don't even have the dignity of knowing why they're dying, and he enjoyed doing it. The worst part is he didn't become like this after he became a demon. Even as a human, he had this cold, detached, and psychotic state of mind. We got a glimpse of it in Demon Slayer Data Book. When he was human, he became a victim of Muzan, who was hungry at the time, and ate Enmu's guts while he was still alive. And Enmu didn't feel a thing. Instead, he felt envious and admired Muzan. Right when he was about to die, Muzan decided to turn him into a demon on a whim. Most likely because Enmu was as twisted as him. Enmu knew his transformation was because of Muzan, and instead of feeling sad or outraged, he became extremely loyal and did whatever he was told. He killed people, toyed with their feelings and memories, destroyed them mentally, all just to please Muzan for years. And we all saw how Muzan reacted when Akaza killed Rengoku before. Gyokko. Most fans remember him as the annoying vase dude. He's often considered the least favorite Upper Moon, not because he's morally worse than the others, but because he fails to make an impact. He's been called boring, accused of having little importance to the plot, and mostly having a design and personality that didn't connect. Unlike Muzan and Doma, he didn't have a pretty privilege to start off with. Gyokko grew up on the outskirts of a coastal fishing village, and from the start, people kept their distance. He had strange habits like collecting fish carcasses and doing other odd things, which made the villagers wary of him. Then, he even lost his parents. They'd gone out fishing and never returned. Their dead bodies were found later, badly damaged. The villagers thought he had lost his mind because of this and kept their distance. But one kid came to tease him. Gyokko responded by killing him and stuffing the body into a jar. This was the reflection of how twisted he was. To be fascinated by drowned bodies of parents, and that twisted nature developed into what he became. Nakime. Her biwa performances kept getting better, but not because of practice, it's because of what she did before every show. Nakime was once a struggling musician, playing the biwa to earn her living. She lived in poverty, not because she lacked talent, but because her husband gambled away everything she earned. One night he crossed the line. He stole her performance kimono and sold it to keep gambling. That was the night she snapped. She picked up a hammer and beat him to death. With blood still on her hands and nowhere else to go, she did the only thing she knew. She went back to perform. Wearing that same torn kimono, she walked on stage as if nothing had happened. The audience mocked her appearance at first, until they heard her play. Her music that night was unlike anything they'd ever heard before. Raw, haunting, beautiful. After that, it became a ritual. Before every performance, she would kill someone, and somehow every time her music sounded more divine. Her final performance was her boldest. She tried to kill Muzan himself, unaware of who he truly was. She failed, of course, but Muzan was impressed by her madness. Instead of killing her, he turned her into a demon, forever part of his orchestra. Turns out Nakime didn't need applause. The screams were enough. Kaigaku. He was probably one of the few characters that did the least evil but got the most hate. Kaigaku always hated Zenitsu, seeing him as nothing more than a weakling who could only use the first form of thunder breathing. He never showed a hint of remorse over his mentor's death. In fact, he openly admitted that he didn't care about anyone who didn't value him. What really got under his skin was the idea that he and Zenitsu were supposed to share the title of thunder-breathing successors. To him, that was an insult. Kaigaku believed that kneeling before someone stronger wasn't shameful. Surviving was all that mattered. He didn't care if he had to grovel, scrape his head against the ground, drink dirty water, or get scolded for stealing. As long as he was alive, that was enough for him. Over time, he completely lost his sense of right and wrong. In his mind, anyone who accepted him was right, and anyone who didn't was automatically wrong. That warped sense of morality combined with his selfishness and lack of loyalty made fans despise him even more, and when he finally faced a strong enemy, he immediately surrendered. His cowardice only sealed the deal. People didn't just dislike Kaigaku, they hated him. Hantengu. Hantengu had been a liar ever since he was a child. He lied so much that he started believing his own lies. He believed that he was always the victim, and actually made others around him look bad so that he would gain sympathy. He changed his name, age, and background so many times that he forgot his true name, age, and background. He married many times and even had children, but whenever he was accused of lying, he would get upset and end up killing his entire family. He did this multiple times. He looked like he was 87 years old, and he honestly believed that there was no one in the world that was more pitiful than him. Yushiro. He owed his life to Tamayo, and would go to any lengths for her, and you can only hate him for it. The main reason people disliked Yushiro wasn't because he was evil, it's because he was obsessed. From the moment he met Tanjiro and Nezuko, he acted like a jealous guard dog. Tamayo had to discipline him more than once, reminding him that loyalty didn't mean barking at everyone else. Later, she revealed the truth behind his obsession. Yushiro wasn't just devoted, he was alive because of her. Tamayo had saved his life by turning him into a demon, one who needed only a trace of blood to survive. From that moment, his entire existence revolved around her. Not much is known about Yushiro's past, but his powers are proof of his devotion. His blood demon art could hide people, even entire houses, from sight. He later gained control over Nakime, manipulating the Infinity Castle itself to bring Muzan to the surface. And when the final battle came, Yushiro fought beside the Demon Slayers, healing their wounds and giving them charms that could even hide them from Muzan's eyes. Even after Tamayo's death, Yushiro didn't stop. He kept fighting, not out of duty, but because that was the last order she ever gave him. Daki and Gyutaro. Honestly, if I changed my perspective a little, I don't think I would hate them at all. Before Daki was born, Gyutaro's life was a living nightmare. Their mother hated Daki because of her hair and eye color. She even tried to strangle her as a baby, but Gyutaro stepped in and saved the day. From that moment, he couldn't help but love her. She loved him too, and always followed him around, and she even cried when he wasn't around. One day, Daki's mother tried to cut her hair with a razor. That was when Gyutaro snapped. He got so angry that their mother was terrified of him, and she started keeping her distance. She grew up beautiful and knew how to use those looks, but still her brother was always her first priority, to the point she took a samurai's eye out just because he insulted Gyutaro. However, this became the reason for her death, as a samurai who had his eye poked burned her. Doma then appeared and turned both of them into demons, and we all know the kind of things they did after that in the red light district. To be honest, if their mom just controlled her anger a little bit and didn't make it look like the whole world was against them, I don't think they would have become what they did. It was a classic case of just bad parenting. Muzan, the biggest villain of the series, but actually he was also one of the most loved characters. Let me explain. Just off the bat, Muzan should be the most hated character, sure. He had a half-tragic backstory. Before he became the king of demons, Muzan Kiputsuchi was just a sickly human, barely clinging to life. He was so weak that the doctor said he wouldn't live past 20. In a desperate attempt to save him, one doctor gave him an experimental treatment a medicine that would eventually turn him into a demon. But Muzan was impatient. Before the cure had time to take effect, he lost his temper and killed the doctor, thinking the treatment had failed. Only afterward did he realize the medicine had worked. He was completely cured, or that's what he thought. While he gained incredible strength and an immortal body, there was one major problem. He couldn't step into sunlight. The moment he did, he'd die. The craving for human flesh didn't bother him much. He could deal with that by eating humans. But being trapped by daylight infuriated him. He went through the doctor's notes, desperate for answers, and discovered that the medicine was still in its experimental phase. The other issue was that he couldn't find the blue spider lily no matter how hard he searched. And the only person who knew where it grew was the doctor he had already killed. He was pissed at himself, and his coping mechanism was actually, let's just say, unique. He created demons. He ruined Rui's childhood and made him kill his own parents. He used Akaza's weak moment and turned him into a demon as well. He even preyed on Kokushibo's jealousy and turned him against Yoruichi. The man had done every vile thing one could think of. And the latest addition was what he did to Nezuko. And all of that, just to find a way to conquer the sun and become a true immortal. For some reason, even after all that shit he pulled, he doesn't get enough hate. The words people used to describe him were usually cold, dark, charming, Michael Jackson, cool villain, not vile, disgusting, cowardly scum he was. Akaza, the ultimate bait and switch of the Demon Slayer. He was actually one of the most hated demons in the beginning of the manga, because he had killed a fan favorite, Rengoku. However, once fans got to know his tragic backstory, the hate was forgotten, and he became one of the fan favorites. As a child, Akaza's entire life revolved around one thing, getting stronger. As a kid, he believed that if he didn't grow stronger, he'd never be able to escape punishment for the wallet he stole, fight off people who wanted revenge, or avoid being dragged off and beaten by the magistrate. He started out as a thief, but his reasons weren't selfish. He stole to buy medicine for his sick father. Eventually, he got caught and branded with the 3 pickpocket tattoos on his hand. When the magistrate threatened to cut off his wrists, Akaza just glared back and said, "You can go ahead." He'd still find a way to steal using his legs. That's how fiercely loyal he was to his father. But when his father found out what he'd been doing, he took his own life, not wanting to be a burden. That loss completely broke Akaza, and he went on a violent rampage. That's when fate introduced him to Keizo, the man who would become both his master and father-in-law. Their first meeting wasn't pleasant. Keizo beat Akaza down hard, but instead of finishing him off, he told him to help nurse his sick daughter, Koyuki. Over time, Akaza's heart began to heal. Between training at the dojo and caring for Koyuki, he slowly found peace, and eventually, love. When Koyuki recovered, Keizo asked Akaza to marry her and take over the dojo. Overjoyed, Akaza ran to his father's grave to share the good news. But when he came back, his world shattered again. Someone had poisoned the well. Keizo and Koyuki were both dead. In a fit of rage and grief, Akaza lost control. He stormed the nearby Kenjutsu dojo, the rivals responsible, and slaughtered all 67 people inside with his bare hands. The massacre was so horrific that for decades people thought it was just a dark legend. That was when Muzan found him and turned him into a demon. Rui wasn't born a monster. He built one. Thread by thread, lie by lie, he spun his own fairy tale about family and strangled himself in it. Rui had been a demon for less than 20 years, but he was strong enough to be a lower moon. And he could actually be stronger than other moons. He just never really wanted to increase his rank, because his intentions were completely different. After he became a demon and killed his parents, Rui wanted to create another family of his own. He recruited demons, gave them roles as family members, transformed them to match the appearance, and created his own spider family. But to maintain that family, he tortured these demons whenever they slipped. We saw this clearly in Mother Demon's case. She was brutally traumatized by him to the point she would rather kill herself than fail him. As these qualities weren't enough, he even had jealousy issues. He was enraged by Tanjiro and Nezuko's relationship, and even tried to steal her away to create that brother-sister bond. He couldn't be redeemed at all, but even with that hateful character, you can't help but feel a sense of pity for him when you know his true story. Rui was just a kid when he became a demon. He was sick and frail. He didn't want to die, so when Muzan gave him the offer, he took it. He didn't know what he was doing at all. And after he became a demon, he didn't see anything wrong with killing a servant at their house to eat. In the same way when his parents killed him and committed suicide, he came back to life and finished them off in anger. because in his mind, he was betrayed by his parents, even though he became a demon just for them. That trauma made him create this fake family. Fear and torture made sure they wouldn't betray him. Only when he was about to die did he realize how big of a mistake it was to create a family like that, and he was going to die alone. The only saving grace was the kid met his family again in the afterlife and reunited with them. Mother Spider Demon. Her character was practically a case study on how trauma is projected from one person to the other. When we first saw her, she was controlling a bunch of demon slayers and made them fight each other. When Rui told her to finish this in a hurry, she even snapped the necks of a bunch of demon slayers and unleashed her strongest puppet on Tanjiro and Inosuke. But everything failed, and she was so desperate to win that fight that she was ready to die than to fail the mission. She even offered her neck out to let Tanjiro kill her. It was very easy to hate her at first glance. She was a demon, and making demon slayers who trained together fight against each other was not something easy to swallow. But unlike most demons, she didn't do it out of rage or her instinct to torture humans. Instead, it came out of pain and desperation. In her short flashback, we saw that Mother Spider Demon was actually just a little girl, as a human. Rui, after turning her, forced her into an adult body, making her the mother of this twisted family. And he made the Father Demon constantly abuse her and punish her, traumatizing her. He just had to say that he would tell on her to the father, and she became scared and desperate. And in that desperation, she could only attack the humans as per her orders. Her transformed adult appearance, hiding in a child's mind, was a visual metaphor for how trauma does its work on people, particularly kids. So when Tanjiro used a fifth form, Blessed Rain, after the drought, and gave her a pleasant death, even fans were relieved. And her last help, informing Tanjiro about one of the 12 moons being on the mountain, just showed how pure and grateful she was, and how human she was. Lady Tamayo. She was a demon who acted more human than most humans, and somehow that made Tamayo the most dangerous kind of monster. During the Heian period, Tamayo was just a terminal woman who was devastated about leaving her family forever. Then Muzan generously offered her a cure. She accepted to live with her family for longer, but didn't know she would become a demon, because Muzan didn't explain the fine print, just like my insurance company. Later, after Muzan almost got destroyed by Yoruichi, Tamayo broke free from its control and started plotting her revenge. Unlike most demons in the series, she didn't give in to her demonic urges and struggled to break free from them. She modified herself to survive on minimal human blood, and she only took it from humans who volunteered. She wanted to help humanity, get rid of demons, and she worked hard for it. She helped Tanjiro in subduing one of the demons Muzan created in their encounter. She promised him that she would turn Nezuko back to human again, and only asked for his help in getting the blood samples. Once she got them, she worked with Shinobu to create anti-kibutsuji drug. Nezuko was saved, and even Tanjiro was saved because of it. On top of that, she was the reason why Demon Slayer stood a chance against Muzan in the first place. She sacrificed her own life to inject Muzan with a drug to weaken him, showing him how ruthless she could be. It's just that she wasn't ruthless to humans like most demons. Instead, she was a monster to Muzan, who created her. Kokushibo. He was one of the strongest demons alive, but also one of the weakest men to ever live. And fans love and hate him for the exact reason. He became exactly what every person secretly fears they could turn into. Kokushibo was one of the most liked villains in the anime history. He was cold, authoritative, and he was strong as heck with his upper moon rank 1 position. He enjoyed when others challenged him, but at the same time he was cold and ruthless. We saw how he killed Moichiro despite him being Kokushibo's descendant. But behind all this cruelty and coldness, Kokushibo was human once, and a legendary one at that. Back in the Sengoku era, when Kokushibo was a human being, his name was Michikatsu, the older twin brother of Yoruichi. When Yoruichi was a mute kid, Michikatsu gave him a handmade flute, so that he could use it to call his brother when he needed help. But later, when Yoruichi showed off his talent in swordsmanship, and even defeated their instructor when he was just 7, that love slowly turned into jealousy. Later, that jealousy only amplified. He wanted to surpass his brother, and so abandoned his family to become stronger as a demon slayer. But day by day, he watched Yoruichi crush everyone else with his overwhelming strength, and that made him only more jealous. And when he learned that the people with the mark would die before 25, he became obsessed with his mortality. With jealousy still raging like a wildfire, he accepted Muzan's offer to become a demon, just because he wanted to be better than his brother. He was ready to become a tool in the hands of his brother's enemy, and that's how low he fell. 60 years after he became a demon, Kokushibo once again faced Yoruichi. Another blow to his inferiority complex, cause Yoruichi, being the Chad that he was, even overcame the curse of the Demon Slayer mark. Even worse, Kokushibo couldn't even defeat Yoruichi, who was old and frail. When he realized Yoruichi actually kept the flute, Kokushibo felt only more devastated. Later in his fight with Hashira during the Infinity Castle arc, he unleashed his monstrous transformation, and he got a glimpse of what he became in reflection, which made him think of the brother he once loved. Realizing he's become a hideous monster driven by cowardice rather than strength, Kokushibo allows himself to crumble rather than continue regenerating. In his last moments, Kokushibo admits he never wanted to be a monster. He only wanted to be like his brother. What made Kokushibo special was that it didn't take a huge tragedy to make him turn evil. It was such a base emotion that every human has. He just wanted to be the older brother always, and couldn't digest the fact that his younger brother wasn't dependent on him anymore or was stronger than him. The every older brother complex. Kyogai. Even after all the people he killed and ate, you still feel for Kyogai, because deep down we've all been a Kyogai at least once in our lives. He was a former lower rank 6. After Muzan turned him, he started growing both in power and ego. But then something strange happened. No matter how many humans he devoured, he stopped getting stronger. Muzan noticed and demoted his ass. That broke him. Desperate to regain his rank, Kyogai convinced himself that eating Marechi blood humans would make him powerful again. So he hunted them like trophies until he crossed paths with Tanjiro. What made Kyogai different from others wasn't his hunger. It was what he craved beyond flesh. He wanted recognition. He wanted someone to see his worth. Turns out Kyogai loved to write stories. Apparently he was a mangaka in his dreams. And yeah, he liked beating his drums. Even as a demon, he was clinging to his human passion, creation. But his writing? Rejected. An editor called it boring trash, stomped on his manuscript and walked out. And Kyogai reacted like any writer after a 1-star review. He snapped. A completely valid crash out, I must say. Later during his battle with Tanjiro, there was one beautiful detail. While dodging Kyogai's attacks, Tanjiro carefully avoided stepping on the scattered manuscript pages. He didn't know it, but that small act of respect gave Kyogai what he'd been craving all along. Validation. Tanjiro told him your blood demon art was amazing. And for the first time, Kyogai smiled. He died peacefully not as a monster, but as an artist who finally felt seen. Because at his core, Kyogai didn't want to just be feared, he wanted to be heard. Nezuko Kamado might be one of the most loved characters in Demon Slayer, but honestly she deserved even more. Not for being cute, but for something deeper. Something that made her better than everyone, even Tanjiro. Her whole character arc was just focused on how much she loved Tanjiro. To the point, I honestly thought she was a big sister. In chapter 1, even though it looked like she was ready to eat Tanjiro at the start, she was trying hard to suppress her urge. Once Giyu came and took her brother down, she immediately turned protective. Even though she just became a demon and was out of control and didn't even know who she was, she controlled her urges because of her love for him. From then on, she saved Tanjiro repeatedly, like in chapter 2 when she kicked the temple demon's head off and when they fought the swamp demon. She even activated her blood demon art in their fight with Rui, just to save Tanjiro from the strings. The same strings tied her up, but she only activated the blood demon art when Tanjiro was in trouble. And that's just the start. To be with Tanjiro and continue being a human, Nezuko had to endure a ton of pain and sacrifice. She resisted Sanemi's rare Marechi blood, which no demon ever resisted. In their fight with Hantengu, she was exposed to sunlight, but just to help Tanjiro and the others, she took it. Luckily, she conquered the sunlight there. She saved Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Tengen from Gyutaro's deadly poison. At the end, she even stopped Tanjiro, who became a demon, even when he attacked her and bit her violently. That's what made her truly special. Tanjiro, the textbook good guy, couldn't even resist the urges as a demon and gave in to them. The same guy who repeatedly tried to protect Nezuko with his life on the line couldn't stop himself. But Nezuko, since the start, kept her connection to humanity, and it repeatedly proved that even the demon instincts couldn't take her down. And her most human act of all, when she went berserk in the Entertainment District arc, but came back when Tanjiro sang her lullaby. In a way, even in her demonic state, Nezuko might have been the most humane character in the series. No matter how tragic or terrifying their stories were, every demon's tale ended the same way, with death.